Yes, it's all right, Jacob. It is your best side, not that you've got one. Welcome to a Pop for the Saints, number 24, I think this is for the season. The Christmas season again. We're still in Christmas New Year season with myself, David Tavener, Jake Ellacott.
Hello, everyone. I hope you're all well. 24 already this season. Haven't you all suffered enough?
Still very festive, Jake. I see one bit of tinsel there. And a happy somewhere between Christmas and New Year to Lee Wood as well.
What day is this?
Who cares?
Brilliant. Move on.
Yeah. Right. Let's look back on, this is 29th December, by the way, ladies. Let's look back on the 27th of December, or as the report in the NLP called it, the end of a calendar year. So he don't know what day it is, Lee, that's for sure. That reporter in there, he's some bloke. He also said, no, we'll come on to that later. Right, a 2-0 win for the Saints on grass, no less. At Clarence Park against Wingate and Finchley. Gary McCann, manager, for those who don't know, made 3 changes from a defeat at Dartford. Out went Sam Smart. I don't think he could complain too much. Alex Wall, probably not either. They were both on the bench, but Haziz Coney, not even in the squad on Saturday, because Gary talked about the strength of the squad with everybody coming back from injury one by one. So in came Jack James to start. Jasper Mather came in up front at number 9. And Riley Scott also came in to start after a few games as sub from his return from injury. Right, I'll see what you two make of this. First half, I thought it was poor, both sides. It was tepid. They started quite well first 10 minutes. We got on top after that. But the threat from either side was virtually none. Our threats on goal actually were helped by Charlie Granger in the Wingate and Finchley goal, who kept dropping the ball at Jasper's feet, and so surprised he decided not to take any of them. But yeah, ultimately neither side was threatening in that first half until right on half time. We got that goal. Good cross by St Albans City left, flicked on by a Wingate defender. Came to Jake Grant. And as the NLP reporter this time said, he headed the ball back to Jasper. No, he failed to control it. It bounced off his outstretched leg. And Jasper lashed it into the back of the net. That is just what we needed. 1 up at half time. So we had the foundation to go on against a really poor side. And second half, I thought we were quite impressive. We dominated it, got the ball in the box a lot, and fully deserving of a second goal. We had to wait a long time for it with Michael Bostwick's superb diving header from the free kick to make it 2-0 late in the day. I thought they were toothless, Wingate and Finchley up front. When they did go forward, it was just no threat there at all. And they were masters of their own downfall by playing the ball across the back too much instead of trying getting forward, particularly just after they conceded the second goal. They carried on doing it. Get the ball in our box. Clueless. It's the same football we played last season. It led to our relegation, so we can kiss goodbye to Wingate in a few months' time. Gary McCann said they're a very good side. No, only Canvey Island look worse than what we've seen, I think, this season. I thought they were very poor. But you two may disagree as you look back on a game that included our 1,250th goal in the Isthmian League Premier Division.
Oh.
I think we should let the non-league reporter try to redeem himself with a more accurate perception of what actually happened at the game. Go on, fella.
I mean, Dave, if you want to start this game, dare we go through your hundreds of reviews and observer reports? Because come on, I think there's only be one winner here.
Yeah, but the thing is, though, Jake, no one read those.
No. No, I certainly didn't.
Well, that showed. Yeah. I think that's a fair summary. First half wasn't great at all. And that goal was really, really important, it felt like, to come at that time. Because I think just as the terraces, everyone was getting a little bit anxious, thinking, oh no, we've been here before, Chichester, Potts Bar, etc. If Wingate go down the other end and just get a fluke goal, whatever way it comes, it's going to be really hard to break them down. Thankfully, it came. Who knew Jasper Mather? He can score goals, and if you play him up front and the ball falls to him, he might actually put it away. We've been saying that for a few weeks, haven't we? And then I say second half, Wingate, they really rolled over for us, didn't they? They didn't particularly want to be out there. We controlled it. they weren't great. And that Bostwick goal, absolutely brilliant. I mean, when you see something flying through the air that doesn't look like it should be flying through the air, but it is absolutely a superb finish. And as you say, Dave, overall, a good performance, good result against an opposition that were really limited. As I choke, I got so excited. But I think the key thing was sending a big crowd away from the game happy and with 3 points, because so many times in the last 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, that's not happened. So that's been brilliant.
Well, were you happy, Lee? Because a couple of weeks ago we said about give Jasper a chance at centre forward, number 9, where he wants to play. He might not have had a great game overall, but he did what our centre forwards have not been doing. He stuck the ball in the back of the nets. Over to you, Lee.
Yeah, there was a lot to like about his performance on Saturday, fellas. I thought he was tenacious, if nothing else. Tabs, you referred there to a couple of opportunities where their goalkeeper made a couple of errors, but I thought what I liked about Jasper's play was the fact that he was on the ball enough to sort of make a nuisance of himself, try and put their keeper off. Bit unfortunate with the one that sort of ricocheted back off the goalkeeper, back off his face, and went out for a goal kick. I mean, that was just comedic, if nothing else. I thought there was a lot to like about his performance, his role, his link-up play. He's got a hell of a strike on him, and I think he deserved that goal. Not necessarily for the performance on Saturday, but his performances this season. He hasn't always got the rub of the green, and he's got us out of a few scrapes so far this campaign. And I think his performances have warranted an extended run in the side. Very interesting to hear Gary McCann reference he can almost play with like 2 10s up front. And I think that he and Seri probably complement each other probably the most out of the forward options we have today. I think that is maybe a possibility of a way forward. Wingate were poor, and considering that it doesn't take a lot to sort of get us a bit nervy in the second half in particular, I thought having Bostwick back, I thought he led that line well. And I think it won't take a lot for us to really try and get back somewhere to the defensive unit that we saw the early part of the season once we get our bodies back. But even with him coming back into the side, I think you can see that it was better marshalled, had a bit more sort of solidity to it. One thing I would say, Tav, second half, I thought we played better. I thought we were winning those 50-50s, those second balls. We were a bit more tenacious, willing to put our foot in a little bit more. We did try and get the ball out wide at times, and that's when we had to get the crosses in. I thought the quality of delivery wasn't always there in comparison to previous games, but we looked dangerous when we did go forward. And what you say in regards to Wingate, Dave, they were toothless, is absolutely spot on. I think there's something there to be said about the way we set up. We had a bit more sort of structure to it. Maybe that's because the personnel are coming back, but I think it's more a case of we're now playing players in the right position, and we're now seeing the fruits of their labour, hopefully.
Yeah, Wingate started the season terribly. Then they had a good run. What was it? November sort of time, and they climbed the table, and they've gone off again. And they've got a few injuries. Most teams sort of have. They're pleased to be getting Gianluca Botti back. I haven't checked how many goals he's got, but they're pinning hope on him, and they've got to pin it on someone because nobody else looked like scoring. Because see Romeo Akinola back out there, former City player. I mean, it took about 3 minutes for Michael Bostwick to sort him out.
Yeah, brilliant, wasn't it? Brilliant. Although he did have a free kick on the edge of the area in the second half, and there were a few players around, a few fans around us going, "This is going in. This is going in." Unfortunately, it was the Romeo of old, where it went nowhere near their goal. So it was all good.
Well, he did one in the first half. It got blocked, and it came back to him, and he did a lovely bit of skill. Flicked over a player's head, sliced his shot off somewhere, but somewhere it went into the box. Guy had it down, and number 9, Alfie Q, should have scored, and he volleyed it out for a goal kick. And it would have been interesting to see. You mentioned earlier about us getting jittery had we gone behind, and that was a clear opportunity for them.
Yeah.
Right, there we go. You talked about Bostwick, defence looking more solid. It's a combination of us looking more solid and the opposition not being great. So I wouldn't judge too much by this, because we've got a broader picture of 21 other league games to look at. And you think, right, yes, it was encouraging that second half, but we need to see more evidence of performances like this before we get thinking, yeah, we're going to make up some of this ground, but we've lost in the first half of the season.
Absolutely. But when you've got Bostwick at the back and alongside Mariappa, who I think is improving, that gives you a basis, doesn't it, of something there. And also, I have to say, the young lad again in goal, he didn't have a very busy afternoon at all, but commanding, isn't he? And when the ball vaguely goes near him, you don't start having a panic attack, which I think kind of helps. And hopefully he might be around for the rest of the season, potentially. And I think it's fair to say, I think Gary's feeling a lot more confident in having him back there from the impression we're getting, which is good to see. And again, Lewis Page, etc., wasn't his best display, but he bombed down the left. That was impressive. So improvements there. And on Jasper, I will say, I mean, he's played in every position, pretty much bar keeper, it feels like. And the way it was going on, maybe he would have gotten a chance there. But I think he deserves that display and that goal and that chance up front. And I think hopefully that will continue. And like Lee says, I liked his running around. And actually, I thought, compared to Leo, I thought he had a much better display compared to Leo Seri on Saturday. And again, maybe that just shows that there are some options up there if we're willing to give it a chance, instead of Alex Wall and Harrison Smith, who, by all accounts, is now not available due to injury for long term.
Yeah, but you told me somebody mentioned Harrison's going to have another operation.
Apparently so. Apparently he's out for now, whatever that form that takes. So we might not see him for a little while.
Yeah, sad. And also you mentioned the delivery from Lewis Page, where he's taking most of the corners. And you remember the one at Ramsgate, nice one to the back post that Leo Seri headed in. But so many of his corners just don't beat the first man. Even when he did a short one and a follow-up cross, again, it didn't beat the first man at the near post. Why we don't have somebody standing in front of that near post? We used to do. I remember it back in the 70s. We did it. We had one far post, one near post. The early 70s under Sid Prosser, one at either post. Get somebody there. Then if it is going to go short, one of ours is going to flick it on. You hope, but no doubt the opposition will double up and stop that from happening.
It was a good delivery, Bostwick's goal, though, wasn't it? Right into almost the perfect area.
Yeah.
What a header as well. I mean, that pitch isn't going to need like a rolling out again for another week or two, is it? Jesus Christ. One thing I would say, fellas, admittedly the bar has been quite low this season, shockingly so at times. Best performance at home this season?
What, Saturday?
Yeah.
No. Second half home to Cheshunt. Just didn't get the rub of the green.
Yeah. Lost.
Yeah. Well, it was a home game. Of course we lost.
Yeah. Well, brilliant. Fair enough. Moving on.
What about you, Jake? Would you put it high up in our list of home performances?
Well, to be fair, there hasn't been many, has there? So it probably would be sort of top 6 or 7. I think the thing about that was just how little Wingate threatened. So it's definitely the game with the least defensive concerns, it feels like, this season. And I think that's a combination of Wingate and us at the back. So, yeah. But, you know, I mean, as I said earlier, we've lost to Potters Bar and Chichester in the last month or two. Like, to actually come out and beat Wingate, I think is a testament to how low things have dropped recently, that actually to get that victory, when in classic City fashion, it would have been so easy for us to just lose that 1-0 in front of 2,000 people, wouldn't it? And just send everyone home miserable. So, yeah, a big improvement. And some players who maybe haven't performed their best in recent weeks, I think certainly stepped up, even the likes of Zane Banton, etc. I think they certainly were much, much improved on recent displays, which is what we need if we just to get these results against teams that we should be beating.
Yeah, I can see how impressed you were with it, Jake. You put it in our top 6 or 7 home performances this season. We've actually had 11 at home in the league. So, yeah, it's almost in the top half.
There you go.
Very good. Right, anything else on the game anybody wants to comment on?
Good crowd.
Yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? 2,212. The highest we've had for a home Isthmian League Premier Division game since before Jake was born, February 1993. Cheshire United lead down the park, 3,120. But of course, as was long later discovered, the club actually added about 300 onto that, so it was under 3,000. But No, club don't do that thing anymore, do they?
No,
Last
of
season.
course not. No.
Don't mention Hemel. But still, a great crowd. Fun enough, wasn't the highest in the Isthmian League on Saturday. Ramsgate Folkestone, Kent Derby, 2,268, and Chatham Dartford, 3,049. Well, at both of those ones, over half the crowds will not have seen because the facilities, despite what has been said about the club at Clarence Park in the past week, the facilities of those two grounds are nowhere near as good for viewing football as Clarence Park is because of our terrace all around the ground.
I think, two things. First of all, that's no surprise. There's not much else to do in Kent on a Saturday, and also, £15 tickets get big crowd in. Same with the game a couple of weeks ago, 1,300. I think these two crowds much improved with the reduced offer, and I think what was noticeable was the amount of people turning up. I think on the day of Saturday as well, not buying in advance necessarily. A lot of people buying on the day because they know it's affordable. They can go there, £15 each, or whoever with their family take them down. It's much more appealing, isn't it? And I think we saw the success of that. So hopefully, common sense prevails with that for the rest of the campaign. We'll have to wait and see, but I think that's the proof of the pudding, wasn't it? If you get reduced prices, the people will come, and if you win, they will come back again, and they will come back again. Just carry it on, and hopefully it can become a winning formula.
Yeah, so those of you who are tight-fisted, Jake, and didn't buy a season ticket, because you are enjoying now these discounted prices, and the club, no doubt, feeling guilty, will pay a percentage refund to support season ticket holders who were ripped off mercilessly by those running the club.
Wow, I didn't see that coming. Did you?
No,
that was Jesus Christ. I mean,
it's written up here somewhere.
Quick, say something else. Quick.
Something about Christmas joy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's true though. The club should say yes. We're sorry we got that wrong. Here you are. Right, we've got Cheshunt this Saturday. Oh, that's nice. Got a message come through. Very good. Cheshunt this Saturday down at Theobald's Lane. They've never done the double over us. Well, they've got a chance this year. Well, I think it's only about the first or fourth season we've met in the league, various leagues. Well, since they beat us at Clarence Park, August Bank Holiday Monday, wasn't it? It was that weekend. 17 league games they played and won one of them. They've gone from top four down to just outside the relegation zone. 3 points in the bag, isn't it?
Every time, Dave.
You would look at it and think, right, this is a great opportunity now to get some consistency, Dave. It's something that we've been sorely lacking all campaign long, my friend. And if there's any sort of relapse back into the old form, the old mistakes, then, you know, the club get what they deserve, quite frankly. This is the perfect opportunity. And because it isn't that far, people are still, you know, twiddling their thumbs about what to sort of do. You might actually get a decent following from City there as well to help cheer on those boys. So you'd hope, looking at the form, a little bit of upturn in terms of our form as well, you'd like to think there's a positive result on the end of it for us, though.
How many cattle trucks are we running Saturday, Jake?
No cattle trucks.
No? Okay, good to see you trust doing their bit to help supporters. At the moment you can't see Cheshunt getting out of trouble, and with Gary getting closer to the side he actually wants, although it is a side still that he inherited, not his players. It's difficult to see him making any changes for Saturday, and you really would expect City to win. I would hope he would stick with Jasper up front in that position. The back line would stay the same. I can't see any changes, can you, from those who are around the fringe pushing their way in?
No, I think the only thing will be if there's any fitness concerns, say if Bostwick or Mariappa, potentially, but otherwise, no. Hopefully everyone will be fit and well, and I don't see why you particularly need to change that team. I mean, will we see Aziz Koney maybe potentially coming into the squad? Possibly. And Jamal Fifield, by all accounts, will be available, but you can't imagine he'll be anything more than on the bench. But otherwise than that, I don't see a need to change anything in that team. I don't know, Lee, if you view it differently.
I thought so, mate. To be fair, I think one of the comments taking away from Gary McCann's post match is that he's not going to change things for the sake of them. And I think the one thing that I do like about Gary is that he's quite philosophical against how he sort of lays his tactics out. You know, he really does put a lot of thought into this, and I think at a time when the games are coming thick and fast, there is that tendency to maybe change a few personnel, keep it fresh. But ultimately, we've got a winning side there. I thought we looked a bit more threatening at phases. So why are you looking to sort of change, especially against a team who is struggling? So hopefully, all things going well, Dave, we should have the personnel and indeed the squad players coming back into the side to get a win.
Well, I mentioned our bad run, but also in the last 5 league games, the fewest number of goals they've let in that time is 2. So they are leaky. Just everything's against them at the moment. And I don't think Raul de Silva's... Who's that big bloke? Raul de Silva is playing at the moment. I just don't see them getting out of trouble. There you go. Right. What's something else going to go on that? We do a prediction in a while. Getting back to something else Gary said about how he thought Wingate were good and we didn't. Johnny Seabrook was interviewing him, and you know, you will know, about 20 minutes before the game, electricity went off. But fortunately, the floodlights, as it used to be, and I assume they still are because they came on, are on a different system from the rest of the ground. So the game was able to go ahead. But it meant we had no tannoy, none of that god-awful noise at 90 decibels. But it was interesting. Johnny said, it must have been off-putting for the players to come out and not have that music to fire them up. Well, players don't need music to fire them up, believe it or not, Johnny. You won't believe it, I know, but there you go. But also, Gary also suggested it was a crowd that gave them the boost. They could hear the noise of a crowd, which is what we've been banging, well, one of us, been banging on about for a few seasons. Let the crowd make the noise, because that is a true atmosphere, not some god-awful din.
I hate it when Dave gets something occasionally correct. It's very, very... But, you know, talk about that. But we'll say, again, I thought it was another good post-match interview. So I'm quite enjoying them at the minute with Gary and Johnny. I think they're a definite improvement on what we've had previously. So finding out a little bit more about those sort of things, Dave? So keeping you happy.
I did actually, when I saw Johnny the other week, I said he's the right man for doing it at the moment, because the phrase you often use is the bar's been set pretty low, and he is raising it at last. We had a story down at Dartford previous week about City supporters would be banned from going into the ground. We didn't know what trouble was, and it seems, I don't know if you two have heard anything on it. You probably have, because you're closer to the fans than I am in that respect. Some supporters apparently smashed up the loos at Chatham Town, and they caught on CCTV. If that is the case, then we don't want to support people following the club. But it would have been nice if St Albans had come out and said, we are aware of incidents, this is what happened, and we are taking steps to stop them from going. The club keeping quiet about it, I mean, it's almost condoning the action, but no, they should be coming out strongly condemning it, and they won't find supporters, genuine supporters, arguing against the club taking that line. But to keep quiet, I just felt it was totally the wrong thing for St Albans to do, and it was Leicester Dartford to say there had been trouble in effect.
So someone sort of come up to us and said, the fans have sort of smashed up the toilets here at Clarence Park as well. I said, no, they've always been that shit, so trust me. It's always been a case of the fact that, look, you're always going to get tarnished by these brushes. And I think there has been, Jake and I have been made aware of these younger supporters. But I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because you want the younger element to follow us to away games as well. That's when they make the most noise. But unfortunately, when you get large groups of young kids, some of them, they sort of do become a bit rambunctious and do things which are not within the keeping of the club and other fans. So it is unfortunate, fellas. But again, I don't know what else the club can do. I think they have been talking to other clubs behind the sort of scenes, fellas, but I don't know. Do you sort of bring it to the attention and sort of upset the genuine fans who go to these games, because there's not a lot we can sort of do, is there, Jake, in terms of supporters? We didn't see it. It's something that the club are aware of, so let them do their job and hopefully they'll catch the culprits.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah, I agree. But the club should also be saying we're aware of it. To just leave it to Dartford to say something about it just left us all asking, well, what's happened? Yes. We're in the dark up until then, which is not the way to go about it. Anyway, right, we do some predictions because there is one other matter I think we've got to touch on. Right, well, let's go for predictions then for Saturday down at Cheshunt. Do you want to go first, Jake?
Oh, great. Yeah, go on. 3-1 Saints.
Oh. Yeah, nobody got it right Saturday, by the way. 3-1, Lee?
I'm going to go 2-0 to the Mighty Saints.
Okay. Cheshunt 3-4. We're now soaring on this one-match unbeaten run. It's difficult to see us failing, isn't it? A gruesome 1-0 win.
Gruesome.
I'll take it.
Starting the new year as a means to go on.
Beautiful.
Tuesday, Berkhamsted Hearts Senior Cup down the park, third round. We don't know what sort of side set you're going to put out, so we're not going to touch too much on this game. But they did us 3-0 early in the season. If they put their first team out again, it could be difficult for us if we put a weakened side out. Gary's got a lot of players he can put out now and give a good 90 minutes to, which is, and I think he will do. He'll want to take the opportunity to get as many out there having a proper 90 minutes. In which case, 3-2 City win.
Oh, I'll go for 2-1 loss.
I'm going to go for a 3-1 defeat.
Oh, for God's sake, why am I always the most cheerful one around here? Right, have you two got any other B before we get on to something about new ground seems to have kicked off again?
Yeah, I suppose we did put out the question to fans. Well, multiple questions actually. Obviously, the end of 2025, and it has actually ended on a high note, which is good to see. But we sort of asked fans for their result of the year, hero/villain of the year, surprise of the year, and the moment of the year. And we got a few responses. A lot of people saying Sammy the Saint was their moment and hero of the year, which is that
there's
surprise.
No one else. There's no one else who can win that accolade, surely.
Exactly. There was obviously a few mentions for villain of the year, as you can suspect, but I think maybe the obvious ones was probably Culverhouse and Bastock, amongst others. Go on, Lee.
No. You carry on, mate. You're doing a great job.
Surprise. A couple of people have sort of said likes of Leo Seri as well. And probably a few others are probably thinking going down was a bit of a surprise. And also just a few sort of games and results. You've got Chatham, you've got the Hemel game at the end of last season. One rogue choice from Andy was the White Hawk equaliser and that game earlier this campaign. So it's a bit of a mixed bag, but I think it also shows we're certainly scraping the barrel this campaign so far, and 2025 as a whole for positives. But yeah.
Have you got a result of the year for yourself, Jake?
I will say the 1-0 win against Banbury in the cup was a special moment, just in terms obviously the result, but also the atmosphere and the crowd that evening was really, really good. To make it back to the first round certainly felt special at the time, and obviously it was before Baza and everything, and did feel like there was some possibility for this campaign to be quite a good one. At that point, how naive I was.
Yeah, if you would argue with that.
Yeah. Lee, what are your answers?
Result of the year. I mean, the fact I'm not going to refer to anything pre-August because it didn't make an ounce of difference in the end. Interestingly, I think the Potters Bar game away, having spoken to Paul Bastock before he departed for some more cash, he earmarked that game that both he and Culverhouse felt most under pressure. And if they didn't get a result in that game, then chances are they would have been given the heave-ho regardless. That's what they felt. I quite liked the Hitchin away game. I thought that was really good in terms of the number of fans that went. It was a lovely, glorious day. They really fancied it. They really wanted to sort of turn us over. So much so they even booked a pub in the town centre afterwards to sort of celebrate said victory. And I thought, Jasper again, last minute winner. It had all the components of an FA Cup fixture you really want to see, local derby. That was quite good. Hero has to be Sammy the Saint. I mean, the fella has gained more notoriety from getting drunk than we ever could, Jacob. I mean, what do we have to do, mate? Seriously, it's outrageous. Surprise of the season. I think in the fans forum in the summer, I think it was the level of opposition towards the ticket pricing. I knew there would be a lot. I knew it would be quite vocal and staunch, but I didn't really appreciate just how long that would go on for. The sheer number of people who came to that fans forum did actually surprise me, considering they've been not greatly attended over the course of the seasons past. The diatribe that has continued and the people that have genuinely stayed away, I think that has been a real surprise. I knew it would be impactful, but I didn't really appreciate just how impactful it was on people's lives and their desire to not come and see us anymore. That was a genuine surprise for me.
Yeah, I'm not surprised it's gone on. I'm not surprised it's still going on, because it was shamefully handled, and it should never have happened in the first place. The prices are just totally wrong, and the club has got no shame and sort of back down in December, but they're still not handling it right at all. So yeah, they deserve to have opposition to it and be kicked in the teeth for it again and again till they get it right. There we go.
Good times.
Moment of the year. Oh, we haven't had it yet. It's another 4 days, 3 or 4 days. Oh, a couple of days yet. Time's running out. Right, Jake. I'm going off you. He's no longer favourite anymore, Lee, by the way. He insisted I watched that, they called it a podcast, that video of the presentation for a new ground that isn't a presentation of a ground, let alone a new one. What was it? I don't know. I got chatting to someone who's rather close to those people at the top of a club on Saturday. He used to be an employee. And he's far more loyal to those running it than we will be. And he said, well, I learned nothing from it. There was no detail there at all. And there wasn't. They had a great opportunity there to say, this is what the stadium's going to be, this is what it's going to bring, this is what it looks like, and these are the facilities. You two went to, I think it was at a forum or somewhere where one of the owners talked about it last summer, and there was a business meeting, I think, as well. Lee, you went to that. And it was a lack of detail you two reported back that really stood out. Well, here we are, 5 or 6 months on. Nothing has changed at all. There's no detail there at all about the ground. And that is the one point that's coming across again and again from things people are sending in. It's just a lack of detail. We put a bit of history to this. The owner who was there, he mentioned Westminster Lodge going there briefly, not seriously. Westminster Lodge opened in 1963, and the council offered us a chance to go there, and they delayed putting floodlights down there until we made a decision, and we said, no, we're not going there. It's got a running track round it, and you've got to share facilities off a pitch with other users down there, which would be unacceptable to the Isthmian League. So we turned it down. A month later, they gave us permission to erect floodlights at Clarence Park, which, sort of underlined we were staying put where we were. And that was the end of Westminster Lodge. Now, the current owners, they made a presentation to the council around about 2012, I think it was. And the owner who was in that video stood up and said, if we don't get agreement for a development of a new ground in 18 months, we're going to walk, meaning he and the other owner. Well, 18 months seems to be a long time in football. They're still there. No agreement. But they hadn't done their homework again, hadn't done the due diligence. That was talking about a site at Coney Heath Lane, which ended up being on top of an old rubbish tip or something like that. And had they done their due diligence, they would have found out that to clear that earth and make it safe and playable and everything, it was going to be a seven-figure sum. When they found that out, they backed out. and again, not doing their homework beforehand. Now, this site here, it came up in 2018 originally, Chiswell Green, Noak area down there. And the cost of it then was going to be £27 million. Now, that I got from the owner who's in that video, and I met with him during COVID in the park in Edlesborough. We sat on a bench out there. So that's not a made-up figure. That has come from him. And he wants the developers back then to do all their work and donate the football ground to a football club. And he hinted at that again in the video last week. So what's changed? Is it going to be a £27 million development again? And again, the constructor says, no, it's going to be too much. We can't afford to give you that, or whatever, for whatever reason. But as another supporter asked him a question at the weekend, well, that stand in the drawing there, you know, it doesn't look right. He said, oh, no, that may not be what the ground looks like anyway. So what's the point if you haven't properly designed your stadium to go out public saying we're going to have this new stadium, we're going to bring together all the women's, the under-23s and everything, bearing in mind the club totally blanks the under-23. If you look at the website, there's no fixtures there or anything. Nothing at all. It's just so lacking in detail. Nothing has changed in their time of running this club. And until they start convincing people that they can do things correctly, bearing in mind, as you mentioned, the ticket fiasco, Lee, that is still fresh in people's minds. It just shows again why they're still getting a kick in. They're not impressing people with the way they're going about their business.
And I think that is probably the one objection that people have at the minute. They just don't trust the people running the club. And I think this is a long-serving issue. What I would say is that when we went to the Chiswell Green Residents Association meeting back in the summer, it was just very, very much in its infancy. The whole concept had a new developer in hand. The sketches of the stadium were made very clear to us. Those were just artists' impressions, just to give us something to visualize, if you like. I won't lie, I felt calling it a podcast was a bit of a stretch, fan podcast at that. Jake did all of my researching for me. He basically summarized, but then I went back and I did watch it. And you're absolutely right. There's nothing there that I didn't learn from the meeting back in August or June, whenever it was. But I did have a really good chat with the co-owner and Max, who was in charge of the marketing PR firm, on Saturday. Really good chat, really informative. Again, the one thing I would say, and I did mention this on last week's podcast, I'm not against moving to a new ground, but the club has no history of doing these things properly. Absolute none. And another fan who actually interrupted me whilst I was talking to this fella said, these can't be trusted. You know, the owners have lost the respect of the supporters. And I think you can probably see that in the return on socials. I think that's evident for all to sort of see. I like to think I'm a bit more open to it than that. I need to know all of what's at play before I can make that decision. One thing I would say, I don't think we are any further down the sort of line. I did ask for a best case scenario time frame, and spade in the ground, opening up of new stands, 2027, 2030 is more likely. So there's still time there, but this has got to go through a whole rigmarole process of consultation after consultation, both county, district, residential wise. There's so many obstacles there to overcome. There was a fan doing like a round robin sort of quick survey, just a Q&A session behind us when I was talking to the owners. I didn't hear anybody that was in favour of it at this stage, simply because, Dave, exactly what you say, my friend, there's a lot more questions than there are answers, because it doesn't tell us anything. It tells us where it's going to be, and there's a lot of like loopholes. Excuse me. Jake, what did you think about the whole process, mate? Because we were at that meeting. You've seen what was on the roller banners parked outside the pop-up fan zone. and you heard what the co-owner had to say along with the PR company. I didn't get the one thing I would say, the one takeaway is that I asked him, if the opposition to this new ground is so fierce and so staunch, what happens then? And he came back to me, said, look, we're pushing this ahead. We're going to push this ahead. So, but we need the fans on side, and we appreciate that there will be some fan opposition. I said, right, there's some fan opposition, and then there's the vast majority of people who want to see us stay. So is it a case of build and be damned, and that's what's going to happen regardless? Or do you generally think if there is as much opposition, considering that they have no record of listening to genuine fans' concerns, is this going to go ahead?
It's
Well, if Jake won't answer, I will. Yes, it would. Almost certainly it would be build and be damned. I suspect that podcast was aimed at supporters who have come to the club in the last few years who will be unaware of previous issues of trying to get a new ground, trying in inverted commas, I think. And so, yeah, great. New ground, football club's really pushing on. Well, no, it's going one way at the moment. New ground's going to be great, but rest of us who've been there a few years longer know the history of those running it and the trouble of trying to get a new ground. And they're not the only owners to have tried. You go back to Bernard Tomley in the 90s, and then Gibson earlier after that, and one in between as well. And you never felt I really went for it, any of them, in trying to get it. It was just threat. You don't do this, we're going to move somewhere else. Well, it's just idle threats. We're never going to come to anything. Go on there, Jake.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's worth pointing fans to the podcast that we did back in the end of May of 2025. It's called City Reset to Silent Mode. I thought was suitable for any time of the year. And that is where we discussed that Chiswell Green meeting. And I think that was the thing coming out of the video. I don't think we can really call it a podcast, especially a fan podcast. The video that was posted by the club was that the details haven't particularly changed. I think Lawrence says since that they've had one Chiswell Green meeting, which really didn't go particularly well. It's fair to say it certainly wasn't people shouting and kicking off, but the response to the meeting and the words of the football club weren't particularly great. And I think that's combined with the locals of Chiswell Green are dealing with a lot of development that they are fighting to the highest courts in the land, it's fair to say, at the minute. So any sort of development is going to be response is going to be negative. And then I've had a meeting with the council since as well, but nothing else has come. The stadium plans seem to have changed a little bit already. The sketches that we saw at the Chiswell Green meeting don't necessarily reflect what we're now hearing about in terms of, I think Lawrence in that podcast video, whatever we want to call it, says that ground will sort of be one seated and 3 terraces. The words we were hearing previously, it was all going to be seated, and then sort of it's going to be a ground potentially up to EFL quality. Well, what's the point in trying to get to the EFL if we're not going to have an EFL quality ground anyway? But nothing's really moved on. There's so much work to do around transport, environment, etc. Even stuff like Lee. We were talking, surprise, surprise, in the pub on Saturday. And a couple of fans were saying, so if we get the bus down, if we get off on the side of the road that's heading towards Watford, how are we going to get across that dual carriageway without hundreds of Saints fans getting run over every week? And even stuff like that is a really great question. And these sort of common sense questions and the obvious questions that are going to come to the fore as more and more people think about it. And another supporter, Cam, who watches the podcast, he's what you'd call maybe a more recent sort of loyal supporter, more regular in the last 4 or 5 years. He's saying that he can't get on board with it when there's no detail at all. He doesn't necessarily want to move from Palace Park, but he can't get on board with it if the club can't tell him why they should present figures and facts, present the figures and facts that are going to come from this positive development, tell them why they should suddenly their nearest train station probably be Radlett or somewhere on the Abbey line or somewhere on a Reliant bus service. These things, there's no detail there at the minute. And supporters, new and old, can't get on board until we have those details. And that still feels like it's a long way down the line. Of course, the club's talking about promotion and getting these fan engagement, etc., etc. I mean, we need the details first. We need to know what's actually going on before fans can truly get on board. But what I will say, I think, Lee, we both heard about the podcast coming out, didn't we? And thought, oh no, what's going on here? Again, it's not really a podcast. Don't know why I keep saying that. And I thought, we were like, oh, there's our peaceful Christmas gone. And I think it's fair to say a lot of Saints fans are feeling the same because the response on social media, is it fair to say, wasn't particularly positive? A very overwhelmingly negative response from supporters new and old. And that's no real surprise. And I think it does link back to, as you sort of both said earlier, ticket prices in the summer, lack of communication, a football club and a football team that is struggling on the pitch in the lower half of the Isthmian League. Fans want these basic things addressed before they can even think about moving to next to a whatever it's going to be data centre midway, well, half an hour past the welcome to St Albans sign if you walk it. So it's, these things, it's difficult for fans to really engage and buy in without the information and without that goodwill, and that faith that things are going to be run well and confidently with supporters in mind. I mean, there's talk of the fan advisory board. I think that's a good thing potentially. I mean, we've got the Saint City Trust to help with that, but the fan advisory board, what Lawrence said, it might be 3, 4, 5, 6 people. We've got a lot more fans than that. There's a lot more fans, and I think you saw that on social media. The response from a lot of fans wasn't particularly positive, and that's no surprise.
That pub you met in, Jake, that was actually Lee's office. A couple of things. No, we certainly do not want an all-seater stadium. And people do love Clarence Park, despite the damage that's been done to it in recent years. And the view, if you're in that main stand, is absolutely shocking. People going, why can't we develop Clarence Park? There are apparently covenants in place. It would be nice if a club were actually to publish them so we could see what the restrictions are. But various owners, ones I mentioned before down the years, they've all tried to redevelop Clarence Park. And you've got such a strong residents' association in York Road who kick up a fuss. They used to be apparently, and I'm quite happy to retract if it's wrong, a couple of high-flying solicitors down there who were pretty good at picking holes in what the club proposed, and nothing would ever happen. Of course, any councillors around there, they're not going to risk losing their seats for a football club. This ground, you're not filling it. All your supporters can get in comfortably. So why do you want to redevelop it? Why do you want to move? Blah, blah, blah. But Clarence Park could be our home with redevelopment, but it's simply not going to happen. But that said, if we do ever move out, and this is a card in the club's favour, the council then got to find the money to pay for Clarence Park, for the football ground at Clarence Park. That is no small finding. Whatever happens to it, keep it as a football ground, turn it over to something else, let nature run wild out, whatever. It's going to cost them money. So if we go, that is going to hit them and local residents.
Yeah, so when I was actually fortunate enough to be working with the club on the first proposal they offered at Noak Lane, I had a sort of brief insight into the covenant, which is overlaying on Clarence Park. And this may have changed now, but this was certainly the case back when I was involved. There's just absolutely no commercialization at all. You can't have anything outward facing commercialization. You can only build to a certain height. It has to be within the keeping of the Clarence Park demographic itself, the aesthetics, so the color range and all that sort of thing. Access has to be adhered to. I mean, there's so many stipulations, and to buy out that covenant would cost a ridiculous amount of money. So I can absolutely see why the owners are looking elsewhere. I think let's get back to the here and now. We're fans there, and they're looking at it. And someone who is going to remain nameless for the minute is basically said, they're taking St Albans out of the city. They're taking, and that is their slogan, taking St Albans out of the city. And it is because, as Jake sort of said, you're going past the boundaries of the city of St Albans to get to this new ground. Out of town grounds, we know, can be very hit or miss. and a lot more are missed than they are hits. But if the hits, they do come with very sustainable and very secure transport links, all of which aren't currently in place. That's got to be looked at. I asked one of the questions, where's the sustainability ethics behind all of this? Because you're building on greenbelt land, which in itself is a massive contentious issue, according to the residents of Chiswell Green, Jake, at the meeting. You've got to get all these people there, and everyone's driving there. Everyone's got to drive there or get these shuttle buses. How long's that going to last for? Because the goalpost, it keeps moving. I get the impression that they're sort of not doing it on a whim. They've got some good organisations, some good companies in charge of this whole project. My only concern is their willingness to engage with the fans. And this fan committee that Jake spoke of, I think when they changed the whole club crest, the whole club identity without consulting any of the fans, I spoke to Lawrence about it, and he said, "Oh, we spoke to a handful of fans whose opinion we valued. People have been there for like two minutes, in footballing sort of terms." I think there's got to be a massive element of trust when it comes to this, fellas. The Saint City Trust, Jake, you alluded to there, they have to be consulted at every single step in terms of fan engagement. There's got to be a massive process. Season ticket holders, both of them, and all of the members. People have got to really now be involved in this process in terms of what it looks like. You cannot just assume you're going to cherry pick all the backslappers and then turn around to the rest of us and say, "Oh, well, we've consulted with fans." That's not how it works. This is how you lost the trust the first time around. Going by all of your points, the video podcast, it looked polished. It was immensely self-serving. And it offered very little in terms of what people already sort of knew, really. But what I would say is Max, who's a part of the PR company who was driving it forward on Saturday, he really did want people to get involved. There is a new website. They probably spent more effort on that than they do on the actual current club one, which is a benefit, I guess. Sign up to that, because then you're going to get all the information as and when it comes. So you can have your say, you can have our say collectively. Whether you're for it or against it, you must have your say. Otherwise, you don't get to moan when it is built. We're having to schlep half an hour down the sort of street to watch us against Potters Bar Town.
That's interesting about no commercialisation facing outwards, Lee, because you have explained why the club doesn't bother to use the fixture boards which are facing outwards from the ground. Next, they'll be sticking to the terms of the lease and not playing music when they get the damn thing working again more than 30 minutes before kick-off. But there you go. Fascinating. Anything else to add before we shut the door on that for now?
This is going to be rumbling on, isn't it? So if people want us to do a more in-depth discussion on it, that will come in time, I suspect. So there'll be plenty more opportunities on this. So go back and look at that podcast from the summer. And yeah, we'll be diving more into this in future. But yeah, well, it's Christmas, so it's nice to have these things to talk about, isn't it? Right? Yay!
Yes, indeed. Right, can we go home? Oh, we are home. Can we go home now?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
I think the people have suffered enough, haven't they? So, Podful of Saints on Twitter or X, whatever it's called these days. Email description below. Thank you all for your comments, views, everything over Christmas. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your support. It's been brilliant. And I think from all of us, we just wish you a happy new year, and we will see you in 2026. So thank you all for watching, and come on, you Saints. Bye-bye.